So this presentation is on alcohol misuse, abuse, addiction, so all the in between. Just a real quick history. People started consuming fermented drinks as far back as 7000 BC. In the 16th century, fermented grain or spirits were used for medicinal purposes. In the 18th century, we moved to gin. It was very popular and alcohol use skyrocketed. Moved to the 19th century, and the temperance movement promoted moderation. They were thinking we're getting a little too much here. Prohibition came in 1920. 1933, we hated prohibition and people were illegally drinking and trading and whatnot, so that went away. And now over 15 million Americans are addicted to alcohol, and 40% of fatalities from car accident involve alcohol. So alcohol plays a massive role, and it definitely does a lot of damage in a lot of ways. Here's some quick sizes for the populations. Locally, we've got Davis County, 3.1% heavy drinking in the past 30 days. Weber Morgan's 4.9%. Downtown Ogden, you've got 6%, and Salt Lake, 11.8%. These are all drinking heavily in the past 30 days. That's a pretty significant amount in Ogden and Salt Lake. And if you think about those two areas, there's a lot of homeless people and likely a lot of mental illness. So we'll they may be correlated in those ways. As far as statewide, 30.8% of adults report current alcohol use. It's a pretty high number. 11.5% reported binge drinking. So when this compares to the national size, 86.3 people 18 or older reported drinking alcohol at some point. That's just any drink. 6.6% reported heavy alcohol use in the past month. 14.4 million adults reported having alcohol use disorder. So we'll go back a slide when comparing that to the local. I think these numbers are a little high, and it may be correlated to religion and homelessness both. Religion is something that may play a role because people are guilty. They feel guilty because a lot of the religions in Utah prohibit alcohol use and among other things, and it may play a role in people's kind of guilty drinking. And then just quick internationally, this area for North and South America, 20 to 50% had heavy drinking session in the last 30 days. Eurasia, I just kind of grouped it all together, 20 to 60% had heavy drinking in the last 30 days. And then just in 2016, 3 million people died due to the harmful use of alcohol, which is 1 in 20 deaths. Think of all the different ways you could die, and one of those is alcohol in every 20. That's a pretty big deal. As far as contributing factors go, here's some social determinants of health. We've got social support. So there's a lot of people who lack social support, and they may turn to alcohol as a coping mechanism because they're not getting that help from the others that they need. They may also have been raised to drink alcohol from an early age and are not educated on the risks. Our family member who has just recently gone through a rehab program for alcohol started drinking when he was 9, and his father handed it to him, and his father's an alcoholic, and that's how he learned. So there's his social support teaching him to drink alcohol. That is not a rare situation. Culture may also affect the way people treat alcohol. There's a lot of cultures who kind of drink socially, drink in parties, drink at family gatherings, so that can affect it as well. Healthcare understanding is a big thing. We had DARE programs when I was in, 6th grade, and those taught us why you shouldn't drink alcohol, what it does for you. Not everyone has those programs, not everyone has that education. So a lack of education can lead to decreased knowledge on alcohol's effects. Socioeconomic conditions, there's a lot of people who live in stressful conditions. They're living in poverty, or they don't have a home, or they have a very stressful home situation. So they may rely on alcohol as a release and even use it to wind down after work, which is what our family member was doing who was addicted to alcohol. Specific concerns for this population, I would say psychosocial is a big thing. They've got something within those coping mechanisms that's not quite working for them. They've got ineffective coping mechanisms, and This is leading to increased alcohol intake because that is definitely a way to just forget about things for the moment. Um, and then mental illness. People with mental illness may turn to alcohol or other substances just because of, again, some coping mechanisms that aren't there. And the just kind of the general, what's the word I'm looking for? I can't find it. It's not there, Kathleen. I'm sorry. But the just kind of goes along with mental illness that people will turn to things like drugs and alcohol. As far as social goes, there's a lot of peer pressure in today's world. Social media, your surroundings, parties you go to, all of those things may lead to the start of alcohol consumption and or the continuation and the dependence that grows from that. All right, so root causes. There's a lot of health disparities that alcohol abuse causes. So some of the more highly known ones are high blood pressure, many different cancers, heart disease, stroke, and the big one's liver disease. Alcohol also causes a lot of risky behaviors because of that altered mental state. They don't have that fine cognition, that ability to judge what a good situation is. That leads to things like HIV, STIs, pregnancy, crime, homicide, suicide, falls, all the things that your clouded judgment may cause you to do. Driving under the influence as well may lead to motor vehicle accidents, causing injury or death to the one drinking and the one who's not. So it's a two-sided thing. There's a lot of people affected by alcohol who don't even drink it. Moving on to Maslow's hierarchy of needs. So there's a lot more that is unmet in this group of people. As far as met, I'd say physiological is fine. They can breathe. They've probably got food, water, sleep, homeostasis, excretion, all that fun stuff. But a lot is unmet. So their safety, they've got poor health. They're likely poor employment opportunities because of the dependence, and then they've got all those risky behaviors. Love and belonging, they've got impaired social relationships because of that dependence. It really wreaks havoc on the families and other relationships. As far as esteem goes, they've probably got low self-esteem, don't have good coping mechanisms, probably not well respected by others. That all leads to that low self-esteem. And then self-actualization, they are so focused on alcohol, and then it leads to that lack of morality because you're making choices that are clouded by alcohol, difficulty problem solving, and the poor judgment and everything. So those things are all unmet. As far as the anticipated functional level, it depends on the person. Our family member went to work, held a job, had a kid, had a wife, all while he was very addicted to alcohol. His father, for example, has a very altered mental state now. He's drunken himself silly, and he relies on others to live and to do well in life. So he cannot hold a job. So it depends on the person. Likely health outcomes, I would say they're poor. Alcohol increases the risk for liver disease, cirrhosis, heart disease, and lots of cancers like we talked about, and we'll talk about that more. Communicable diseases, we've got HIV, STIs, we talked about that before, may lead to drug abuse and sharing needles, which is your HIV, STIs from the sexual risky behavior and whatnot. We've got viral and bacterial infections. Alcohol actually, through the studies I've seen, may decrease your immune system, cause you to be immunocompromised. So even just the common cold or those other viral bacterial infections going around, people who drink a lot of alcohol are going to be more at risk for them. So those at risk should practice safe sex, decrease those risky behaviors if possible, but the best thing would be to stop drinking alcohol. So we need to educate them on programs that'll help them to stop drinking and whatnot. And many medical therapies are available to treat STIs, HIVs, and other infections. Non-communicable diseases or infections, we've got alcoholic hepatitis or cirrhosis. This is caused by chronic damage to the liver cells from alcohol. Your ulcers, alcohol causes ulcers throughout the GI tract. They can become life-threatening like esophageal varices. People can bleed out. Alcohol also can cause an increased susceptibility to tuberculosis and pneumonia because of that immune function. And then that leaves people at an increased risk for ARDS. Dementia and brain infection, there needs to be more studies done on this, but alcohol, the immunosuppressing nature can also lead to infection in the brain or a risk for dementia. Again, they need to join groups to help with alcohol cessation and be educated on why they need to stop. As far as self-care and self-harm, alcohol users are at risk for self-harm, suicide, falls from being clumsy and drunk, drowning, other injuries due to risky behaviors. Heavy alcohol users are also likely to experience self-care deficits because they're so focused on alcohol and not focused on their own well-being. And again, those people should surround themselves with people they trust while they're drinking, or stop drinking. Stop drinking would be the best thing. Specific concerns for harm to others or by others, they're at risk for physical or sexual assault. Because they're not in their right mind. I think especially girls are susceptible to this. They may injure others while they're drunk if they're fighting or driving. They're at risk for homicide because of that clouded judgment. Pregnant women obviously are risking harming the fetus if they're drinking. And again, those at risk should be in a safe place while they're drinking or stop drinking alcohol. Here are my references, and that is it. Thank you.